One thing that we have literally never had a problem talking about is balance. Spellbreak has had lots of ups and downs in the balance category, but we're going to talk about kind of the way that Chapter 3 plays into balance. Maybe some things I would like to talk a little bit more about on the what's broken, what I hate, what I'm not a big fan of, and what I want changed for Chapter 4. I want to take a second and thank Spellbreak for sponsoring this video. Nothing about what I'm about to talk about is confirmed, by the way, by Proletariat. It's just me, my feelings on the balance, and what I specifically would maybe be changed to make things feel a little bit more cohesive that way. So thank you, Proletariat. First, we're gonna start off with individual gauntlets. Everyone knows that the fire gauntlet is most likely the best one. Also, you controller players on PC are not gonna like this, but I plugged in a controller and it is mad freaking easy to hit controller fireballs in the medium to close range. Like literally you don't miss if you have any kind of aim. You run aim assist, take it off, see how you do. Fire is without a doubt the single best gauntlet in Spellbreak. It's the best brawler gauntlet. You just get close and you just pyro snuff out the wazoo. It does a lot of damage. It does ignite if you hit them. It's just, it's obstructive. It blows up everything that's toxic related. There's two things that I want to talk about specifically that came in with Chapter 3, and that was toxic's range was a little bit increased, which adds a problem to the class itself because you can just garden people. If you don't know what gardening is, it's just shooting out your garden boogers, toxic boogers. You do corrosion damage, which is your normal damage of like 9, I think, or whatever rarity you have, and then you do ticks, 5 damage ticks every single time, and you can track them the whole time just for hitting one of the tendrils. So that's a problem. We'll get into corrosion on another day. But then we also got to talk about lightning. They added a bloom to lightning, which made lightning go from a steady shot, you can shoot at any distance, to more on like that like medium close range at the tail end of lightnings before you run out of mana. You know what I'm talking about. I want to say clip, but it's not a gun, so it doesn't really work that way. But the very first part of the first like 4, I want to say, you can still hit at a distance before it starts freaking out and blooming on you. But up close, you don't really miss shots, especially like if they're in that like 10 to 20 foot range. You don't miss. It does more damage up close than wind does. So for all those people who are saying like lightning is bad, you can't use it now, you're just, I mean, like, to me, it is my own opinion, and obviously my opinion does not mean more than others. We had a problem with this in stream the other day. You're wrong. To me, you're wrong, because like I've played Conduit multiple times on stream. I don't play Conduit and just shredded people. Mind you, I am not the best player and don't play against the best players. So like, take it for what you will. Other than that, stone was changed. Stone's really not that big of a problem. I do think it's a little bit too thin. Not really need to worry about it. So in Chapter 4, maybe beef that up just a tad. I like the speed, but like it's a little bit too thin. Frost, as you all know, I've always thought was too easy for the damage you get up close for the mid-range game. It's not really hard to aim slash the mana. There's a lot going on with Frost. I think it just needs to do like 10 damage less, maybe. And then Wind is like, you just get tickled up close and it's not a problem. But I think that's okay because it's mad annoying to get hit by Wind and Lightning, whether or not it's got like a lot of damage. It does a lot of stuff to your screen. And I don't like that. Let's get into classes just a little bit because this is gonna talk a little bit more on the idea of fire. Now you can miss and do damage, which we've had combust for a while, and I don't think combust is really that big of an issue at the moment because it's usually like 8 damage here and there. But it's also the same as like when Tox misses. When Tox misses, you land on the puddle, you get slowed, you do like 5 to 10 damage. It's just one of those annoying things, right? Where people they miss, they get damage. Tox misses, they get damage if you land in the puddle. Tox, I think, actually was brought into a much better position. The distance at which the Tox slaps can go. In BR, Tox, I think, is in a much better spot. But in Dominion, it can be really, really annoying to run into a lot of toxic players because they can just splooge all the points. I mean, you can just AoE. AoE's a problem in Spellbreak, and it has been for a while. But I think if they just like shrink everything in, we'll be fine. Take damage off of the puddles, just make them slowed. Maybe take like 2 to 3 tendrils to actually take corrosion. Moving on to conduit. Conduit was, it has always been, they added this really weird power surge, I think is what it's called. Maybe not what it's called, but whenever you give out more damage, the longer you hold M1, you don't have to hit the shots to get the more damage. You just, you know, if you hit the shot, then you get damage. It's one of those things that doesn't really make sense. However, I will say that when they added the new way to use lightning, hitting those shots at a distance, the last bits of them, not going to be something that you're going to do unless you kind of like wave your mouse around or you actually learn the pattern. Up close though, Conduit freaking shreds people now. It is absolutely ridiculous. And a lot of Conduit players in the past are used to playing like that stay off in the distance, kite people, stand on top of mountains, stand still and do that. But now you kind of have to like move around a lot while you track them. And that does add a little bit of skill to it, so you're not taking a lot of damage. But if you do hit your shots, it's mad crazy good. And it's just, you know, that's just how lightning is these days. I really hope lightning one day gets toned down and is in a place that I can actually be like, oh, it's not super obnoxious. Lightning will always, I think, always be super easy damage, especially on the front end of it now. You can still do it at long distance. I think it's in a really good spot. However, it's just the conduit addition of the damage bonus throws it out of whack to me just a little bit too much. Stoneshaper always is in a weird spot. I think it could use some help. It's just not like the best class anymore. I mean, it's never really been the best class, but it's not like in a good spot. It doesn't have movement. The tankiness really isn't there. Damage is harder than it used to be. Frostborn always needs help because we've talked about this in the past. Frost just, you know, you can get most of the skills minus Tundra outside of Frost via the shrines or damage modifiers or ambi or whatever. You can get almost everything outside of that. Tempest feels great. I play a lot of Tempest. I don't really have any issues there. Now that lightning is kind of dialed back a little bit, you can kind of be in the air a little bit more. The gravity was increased a little bit more. We're in a little bit better spot. We're not quite where we were in chapter 1 where it was at like 1900 gravity, but we're in a little bit better spot. Plus, people are more grounded, so it makes more sense to use Tempest. It's a little bit harder to hit Tempest players if you're not Tempest now, because you can't just like float in the air for forever. And I think that's okay. Let's talk a little bit about AoE. In Spellbreak, there is a lot of easy damage between the sorceries of Firewall, Tornado that can be combined with anything, Toxic Clouds, Boulders, we just talked about that, 50 damage boulders if you're in the class. The Conduit, fully leveled up, 5 strikes of 25, I think is what it is. Maybe I'm wrong, if you just stayed in it. And that's not even really talking about in Dominion where it's literally, you have to stand on top of a point the whole time, which is roughly the same size as these sorceries. So what I would like for sorceries to be, this will never happen. One thought was sorceries become utility, like how, by themselves, right? Become utility only like how Tempest is. I don't think it will ever happen, but when you combine them, it becomes more deadly. I don't think it'll ever happen because like what would stone be? Just a wall or like a boulder that flies through and like blocks, but if it blocks, they'd have to take off the time lead up, wind up thing, or just reduce the size of everything. I mean, pyros, I've been playing pyros since I don't even know how long. Pyros don't need that giant wall to firefly. Make it like half the size. Toxicologists don't need that giant cloud to do their vanishing mist. It's just not needed. Tempest players don't need that giant tornado. While all of that looks really badass and cool, I don't think it needs to be that big. I mean, it's just really easy to do all of this damage. It's really kind of like, it's just in a really weird spot. We also haven't had like a lot of class shakeups recently. Not to mention that chapter 4 could completely make this video 100% useless because they could fix a lot of these problems. We've had a lot of like AoE easy damage problems for a while on the way of like sorceries and when you miss, you get damage for a long time. They've pretty much reined in a lot of these, which is really awesome. And I'm very, very grateful. Also, new players, it's kind of hard to hit a lot of people with a lot of this stuff because it's projectile and they're not used to it. Once you're used to it, it's then easy. But right at the beginning, you kind of want people to sit in the game. So it's kind of this weird catch-22 of like fix the damage, easy damage from like people who've played a while to people who've played for a long time. And then make it harder for the newer player or make it easier for the new player. They stay in the game a little bit longer, but it's a little bit, you know what I mean? It's like easier for the veteran players to then kind of like ruin the day. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit easier. It's weird. It's a really weird catch-22. Anyways, chapter 4 could add multiple different classes and they could be doing a lot of balance stuff. Chapter 3 did a lot for balance. Balance right now to me feels the best that it's felt maybe since beta. Feels the best right now to me since beta. But chapter 4 could make or break that better or worse with if they add new stuff. If they don't add any new classes, any new anything new like that to the gauntlets and the weapons, it's a missed opportunity. It's been way too long. So I really expect them to do that. Maybe 1, maybe 2. I in my opinion, it's been enough time to double up what they are, where they are at when it comes to classes and gauntlets, or like double up the gauntlets, break your classes into 2. We talked about this, having different skill trees. Balance in general is in a good spot. There's just some things that I think need tweaking. Tell me what you thought down below, or come into stream 10 a.m., 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Savings Time or whatever. Guys, I love you. Love yourselves. We're also not doing an outro, so peace. Get the frick out.